Welcome to this post-screening Q&A we have prepared for you using Zoom. We hope that you enjoyed the film. My name is Tobias and I'm part of the programming team here at Lux Film Fest. Today we are joined by Thomas Imbach, the director of Nemesis. Welcome, Thomas. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Hi.
Thomas, well, first of all, I mean, I know that you had already made a film in a similar vein to Nemesis before The Day Is Done in 2011, which you also filmed from your window. Now, what made you decide to chronicle the destruction of the Güterbahnhof and the creation of the prison this time?
This time it was completely different, because this time it was something happening in front of my window that I got upset immediately. Like it was the destruction of the old station. Yes, I knew for years about this project. It was a very ongoing project for long years, but we did not believe that it really will happen. So, sorry. And in the moment I saw that they will destruct these roofs that for me were like becoming my own personal sea in front of my window, I started from anew to witness this process. And at the moment, it was not clear yet if the prison will be built or not. Mm-hmm. But I felt I have to witness what is going to happen. So this film is completely motivated from this moment. Whereas the other film, Day Is Done, I started filming with short ends from other films just to look at my view, and I combined it with messages from my answering machine. So it was more a look in a personal look inside of me, whereas here it was like a real I had to do that also as a citoyen of my town, of my city.
Okay. That sounds like it was a pretty organic and spontaneous decision also to make this film. Is there, do you have a specific personal connection to the train station?
It's my neighbor since 20 years, or no, since 30 years. I mean, I'm here since the Berlin Wall fell. So it's a long time I'm here. And so the old station was always my neighbor, yeah. So, and I was impressed by the spaces in this station, spaces you would not build anymore today. So, and I thought, and it was protected by law, but the government found a way to unprotect it. So that's why it was quite of a scandal. And there was a lot of political stories I could not portray in the film because it was very local and very complicated. So my film is more about the universal meaning of this transformation.
So what would you say was the plan or your intention going into Nemesis? You decided to create this film. Did you already know that you would make a feature-length film, or did you just start shooting basically?
I did not know what kind of film it will be, but the more it took, the more material I collected, the more I filmed, the more it was obvious that it's going to be a feature film. And I even stopped before the building was completely finished. They're still building now. And for me, it was enough just to see the raw building. I didn't want to go to the polished, perfect, new slick building, because I already had material for 2 films. So I felt like I was happy at the January 2020 to stop.
Okay. You mentioned you had material for 2 films. It's also something I thought you must have been filming. Yeah, a lot of material. How did you go about material selection for this film? What was your process there?
The process is that at the beginning, I was interested in the roofs, and I prepared about the roofs when they will collapse. I could not really predict. It was complicated. There, I really spent hours in front of the window with the finger on the trigger of the camera. But for the rest of the film, I could not plan. And whenever I waited for something, it did not happen. Whenever I thought, oh, let's forget it, then everything happened at the same time. So I built up a scenario in my head that I started to look out for certain things that happened. For at one point, it was like, it seemed like nature will take over. So I was sensible for animals or birds or the fox, as we can see in the film. And then when the workers came, I started to follow some of the workers, and I knew exactly their schedule, more early morning, and when they have the first break at 9 o'clock. And so I tried to observe them a little bit after their schedule. But I had another life during these 7 years. I did other films, so I could not really take a day off for this film. The only days off I took was the New Year's Eve when I filmed the fireworks. Yeah. This like half an hour I prepared.
Right.
And I was ready to do it. But for the rest, sometimes I didn't shoot for 2 weeks, and sometimes I shot for a whole morning, or sometimes, I only shot when there was also light I was happy with. I did not, for me, it's very important to have this good lighting, or weather like rain or snow is important to me, but it has to be connected with something, for example, of the workers, or it cannot be the weather itself. So it was different elements I was starting to look after whenever I discovered them. So, and one of the good things to film was that I shot on 35, so I could not shoot for long minutes. I could only like shoot for this minute or the other minute, because otherwise I would collect too many. It would be too expensive.
Okay. Interesting. Yes, of course. I mean, you couldn't, you can't manipulate the lighting. It's not like a movie set. So of course, if you have a motive running by the screen and then the lighting isn't perfect, that's an issue I hadn't thought about. Very interesting.
You can do a lot with the weather moods in terms of waiting. It's all about waiting. But after I knew it from the previous film, I have like a sixth sense. When I'm doing my stuff here, when something is happening outside of the window, or when there is interesting lights, I kind of feel it, without looking at the window. So this I learned from my other film. So I was prepared for this kind of shooting from the other film.
Okay, interesting. Okay, Thomas, the film was interlaced with very touching testimonies from migrants to Switzerland. Some of them, or I think most of them, awaiting deportation. Well, first of all, how did you get those testimonies? Did you interview the people yourself?
No, it was Lisa, my assistant. She was, when I started filming, I did other films, and she worked with me for another feature film. And at the time, it was like the destruction of the old station. But then I started to think about what the hell will be after, when there will be a prison. And I started to think about my new neighbors, prisoners. And at that time, she went to another prison, to the airport prison, to visit prisoners awaiting deportation. Yeah. So we started a collaboration, and she was doing this like for years, visiting those people. So she collected material, and I discussed, but it took like 3 or 4 years until I really worked with the testimonials, when some of the people we could not find anymore. So.
Okay. So the yeah, that would have been my next question. Would be how you decided to choose these voiceovers for the project. So you would say that is linked to the parallelity between it being a prison and the fact that within the prison that Lisa, that your assistant went to, there were overwhelmingly people with a background of migration.
Yes, I mean, obviously there is, as I say in the film, like 70% of prisoners are foreigners, and so I'm thinking about what will this end to if all these people coming to Switzerland, we put them in prisons. And so I just try to get them to know better, because these will be my future neighbors. So, and it was an opportunity for me to tell about this migration and all these stories we know from media and other films in a very different context, you know, to have this crossing of the Mediterranean Sea in front of my window. So I was attracted to that, to bring in this universe to my own personal view. So this was a challenge to have it more universal in the film than just this specific prison in Zurich. So it was the idea to connect to. I mean, it's not a film for people living in Zurich. It's a film for everybody, like in our.
Yeah, you wanted to, yeah. This idea that's very interesting, this idea of deterritorialization, is that also what made you decide to choose Milan Peschel as the narrator of the film? Because of course he's German, he's not Swiss. He doesn't have he has a different kind of dialect that he speaks in.
You know, Milan is an old friend of mine, and I worked with him on different films, and so I like him and his voice and his way of doing this, and so, and in a film like that, you would not speak Swiss German. It wouldn't make any sense to have an off voice in Swiss German, because it would be too strange. You know, our language is High German in the media, and it's only when we talk privately we speak Swiss German here. So yeah, I'm not really used to do that on my own, because in my previous films I never did voiceover. I'm not a big fan of voiceover. I'm not a big fan. It's not my cup of tea until Nemesis. And so I didn't feel like motivated to do it on my own. So I worked with Milan as a friend, and that's why I did it with him.
Okay. Yes.
To also to have it on a personal level, you know, when we, yeah, because he knows the background of all this. So.
Okay. You used a lot of interesting editing tools in the film. My question would be, what was the vision behind the art design? How did it come to be? How did you come to use such a lively anthropomorphizing sound design, for example, for the construction tools and the fast forwarding and rewinding, the temporality of it? How did you decide on doing that?
Some of the effects I did in camera already, like the accelerating and the slow-mo is done in camera. It's not done in editing. The reverse, of course, is done in editing. You cannot film it reverse, but it's a very it's an effect. Since film exists, you look at stuff in reverse. So it's especially for this old station. It was very fascinating to erect it again. And for the sound, yeah, it was our Peter, the sound designer, and me, we are both fans of Shock Duffy, so it was obvious that we will bring in some more humor and stress. You know, for me, sound is very important to stress, to give the spectator like the reason to watch this or that, you know, and not to give a natural sound scape. So it's always about the precise idea of a special shot to stress with the sound. And then we started with this and that, and then we thought about the voices, and I thought about to hire a lot of different people for the voices, and then I found that it's going to be difficult to hire like construction workers for this or that. So, and we started trying out some voices, and at the end he did it all himself. All the voices of the workers he did himself, and all the other voices he did himself as well. So, and my editor David, he also did some voices. So, and so actually we kept it in the family, all the voices. But it was a good way to cut the naturalism, because if you would use the sound that you would record, it would be far away, more far away of, you know, there will be more echo, and it would not be so present. So this all this sound work helped a lot to bring the images closer to us. So that was about the work we had to do. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's fascinating to learn that he actually did all the voices himself, because I wouldn't have guessed that.
All the Foley's and everything. I mean, the Foley's these are very precise. It's like music, you know, to work with the Foley's and to give the rhythm, and so it was completely done. Done in post, all the sound.
Okay. Okay, so I think we unfortunately already have to come to a close very soon. What you said about the parallelities between between Switzerland, and Luxembourg made me think, and I wanted to ask you if you had to describe, or if you had one thing from the film that you would wish, talking again about globality and the transnationality of your film, if there was one thing that you would wish other people, other countries, other societies take away from it, also from your experience, what would that be? Very global question, I know.
You know, all the story about memory and destroying these old monuments and this stupid belief in technocratic solutions, like to have like a police and prison center with more than 2,000 policemen. I think it's an idea from the 90s that survived until 22, 23, and it's completely mad that it's even not a capitalistic sin. It comes from a very slow administration and it also comes from to have a stronghold in the middle of the city, which is completely ridiculous nowadays to have like what we built in the medieval ages, you know, and it's completely an architecture from with this concept. So I think we should get lost of this. There is a similar building in Zurich when they build a new the Bourse, c'est quoi la Bourse in English? The stock market.
The stock exchange.
Yeah, they built a new building for the stock market, and the day they opened it, stock market was going online. It's like 15 years ago or 20 years. And I think after the pandemic, this huge police and prison center will be from another era. it will not serve anymore as they planned. So that's my smile after the whole story. That's Nemesis.
That's Nemesis. Okay. Thomas, thank you so much for this interview and for your time and for your great inspirational film.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. Well, likewise.